Well, today I want to talk about physically printing the images. I've been talking about why I print my own images, but I don't think I really went into how to print images here. So printing images is a great way for you to expand your art. Now, one of the things that you have to realize when you print your own images, having the flexibility of having your own printer gives you the opportunity to experiment. Now, one of the things that you really have to think about is paper. Paper makes a huge difference as far as how your images look. Now, the first thing to consider when you're buying paper is down here in the bottom, it tells you the weight of the paper. Weighs 69 pounds or 260 grams. That's kind of where you want, somewhere in that range, that's where you want to be in the 65 to 75 pound range there, or the 250 to 320 range. That would be really good for non-production quality printers. And the reason why you want something that heavy is as it's going through the printer, if it's a lighter weight paper, it can bend or distort, and that can distort your image. And that's the reason why you want to have a higher quality piece of paper. The other reason why you want to have a higher quality piece of paper, it's much easier to frame, it's much easier to mat, it's a heavier piece of paper, so it's more durable. So that if you go to a show and you're trying to show pictures, if somebody's handling images, even if it's in a cellophane container, if it's a really light frame, somebody might bend it or distort it, and that image would have to be thrown away or destroyed, or you won't be able to sell it. So that's something to consider too. Now, there is different kinds of paper. There's paper that's made from, most of this Canon paper is pulpwood paper. It's made from the classic way that paper is made, but they also have rag paper. They have paper made out of recycled. They have paper made out of bamboo. All of these papers give you a little different effect on how your images look. Now, as a standard rule, a big piece of paper like this that's 13 by 19, it will cost you, a box of this stuff will cost, if you get 50 sheets, will cost you in the somewhere in the range of the $20 to $30 range, depending on the paper. You can get paper, obviously, that's cheaper than that. You can get paper that's more expensive than that. And as always, try to keep your eyes open for sales, because paper seems to be a commodity that fluctuates a lot. And going somewhere like that is important. Another thing that you can do that will help you is to get a sample pack from a manufacturer of paper. I got a sample pack from Red River. They didn't send it to me. I bought it. And I got a sample pack that has some metallic paper in it. This is a different finish. It still comes in the standard feel of glossy, semi-gloss, and matte finish, but it's a metallic coating that's on the paper that's supposed to help you give a little bit different way the image looks. And all of these different papers and different coatings can produce a different way that your image looks. I strongly encourage you that if you're interested in doing this, that you buy these sample packs, and you can get probably 20 sheets of paper for about 10 bucks. It's a great way for you to experiment and see how the images work. What I did here is I printed the same image on 4 pieces of paper just to see how they worked out, and I'm really impressed with the different feels of the paper. Even the texture of the paper makes a difference here, and I think that different textures offer a little bit different on how the image looks, and even certain papers have different colors. Some of the paper is a little bit green, some has a little bit of purple tint to it. All of that can add to the creativity of being a photographer. Buying the standard Canon paper, this stuff is really stable and really good. That's a good way to go. But Epson, Kodak, all make really good paper. Try to stay in that weight range. The next thing I'm going to show you is how I print these images out of Lightroom. If you notice, I have a different shirt on. I've had to re-record this part of the video, so please bear with me. So when you're going to go print your document, you have the document that you want to print. We're going to print this black and white wobbler here. Now this is the image that I had those 4 images of. So when I'm trying to print these images here, I do the edits I want, and then I go up to my module section here and I hit print. Now I'm going to print this document as an 8.5 by 11. So the first thing I do is I go to settings. I open up the print module here, and I make sure that it's set for 8.5 and 11. So that's standard letter size. I also want to make sure one other thing. So I go into property, and I want to make sure that it is borderless printing. Now, I'm going to cover what the difference is a little bit later in the settings, but that's an option that you should have set
so that it's turned on. You hit OK, you hit OK, and as you can see, the image has now um, been appropriately in the size of the image. So the next thing I do is I come over to the right hand side, and I go over here to this section here. So the first section I look at is image settings. This basically says, zoom to fit, rotate to fit, repeat one page per page, that kind of stuff. I don't usually use those settings there. I know that some people do that, but I don't. There's another option to put a border on your image. As a golden rule, I don't put anything on my image like a border or anything like that unless somebody asks me to do that. And if you wanted to put a border, this is where you would do it. It's pretty straightforward. You can decide the size of the border. If you click this and then you just select the thing, and you can select the border that you want on your image here. We don't want a border, so we're not going to do that. The next section is layout, and this is where we actually talk about the size of the print. So the paper we're using here is 8.5 by 11, and in this exercise, I am printing to the size of the paper. But let's say I wanted to print 5 by 7. Now, I have a philosophy about managing paper. I only buy two sizes of paper. I buy 8.5 by 11 and 13 by 19 size paper. And the reason for that is that all the images that I want to print, I will print on that paper there. And instead of having a bunch of papers, 5 by 7, 7 by 5, 8 by 10, 8.5 by 11, 11 by 14, I have just two pieces of paper. So if I want to print something that's 8.5 by 11 or smaller, I print on 8.5 by 11. If I need to print something bigger than 8.5, 11, I print it on the 13 by 19 paper. And that way there, I don't have a bunch of different size paper, and I'm not managing a lot of paper here, which can get overwhelming sometimes. So when we're talking about the layout section here, remember I talked to you about how you wanted to have borderless printing? This is where it would come out. If you didn't select that, you would have as default a 0.25 border all the way around your image, which in most cases isn't a problem. If you're going to mat an image, you're not going to, generally speaking, we don't mat images into exact size of the paper. So I would mat the image to the print itself. But if you wanted, like in this situation, to print to the edge of the image here, so if we were going to sell this image just in a cellophane piece of paper, we want to print it. We don't want a bunch of white around there or a border. Like I said, we don't want any borders around our images here. So here's where we would change the margins. If you want to change the margin, you can just simply select the different margins and move them to wherever you want them, and that's how you would do it. It's pretty straightforward. Again, none of this is destructive editing. This is just for this print job here. As you can see down here where it says cell size, that's the actual area where the image is going to print here. And again, we can change this as we need. We can just slide the sliders or just type in the numbers we want. In this example, we want to have 8.5 by 11. As a rule, I just leave the grid as default. Now, one thing that I have used in the past is watermarks. So if I was going to send a photo to a gallery to have them decide if they want me to show the photo or not, I'll put a watermark on the image so that A, everybody knows who it belongs to, and B, it can't be just taken and sold without me know or without the person buying it knowing that there's a watermark or something like that. The placard ID is something that's a little bit different. If you had a margin around a picture, you could put a placard in that margin that would say to who it belongs to. And depending on where you're showing your photos, that might be an issue. Some galleries don't allow you to do that or don't want you to do that. You can also put a placard on the back of the image if you ever wanted to. I usually put a sticker on the back of my images that say what they are so for somebody to see what it is, they'd have to turn the image over. And most of the time you're in a situation where they don't want a placards in a judge contest. They don't want who you are to influence the image or influence the judge. And again, that's something that I very rarely use because I do enter a lot of contests, and that is one of the rules that they don't want your name on it. And the next section is the print job. This is where the meat and potatoes of printing are. So first thing is print resolution. I have it set for the highest level. Print sharpness, I have that set to high. But if you look here, it says media type. If you select that, it only gives you two options, glossy and matte. That's not, if you're an art photographer or trying to show photos for judging, that's not at all satisfactory. But to change that, you go to color management. And this is where you can use profile. Now, Profiles is a piece of software that you download from the vendor of your paper, and you can select different profiles. So I have a list of profiles, that paper that I use. The paper I'm using today is the for this image is the RR is Red River Company, and this is Polar Glass metallic paper and they actually make a profile for my printer. So as you can see here, I have a Canon Pro 100, which is really nice because I like when companies offer you profiles for your specific printer, because every printer has I shouldn't say every printer, every unique printer has their own quirks, but each model printers have their quirks, and that's what I like about dealing with a company like this. Canon, if you use a Canon, you use Canon paper, it automatically takes that into consideration. The same is true with Kodak and Sony and other companies that manufacture printers. So here I would just select the appropriate profile to do the print job, and I would then select print to print the job here. And of course, we've already selected our printer, the Pro 900, when we went into paper settings here. And at this point here, you can just print the job, and you can see how it comes out. And this is a very rewarding part of being a wildlife photographer, or any photographer for that matter. If you're interested in entering contests, if you're interested in taking your photography to the next level, printing your own documents is definitely a way that you can do it. So I'm hoping you got something out of this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel because that really helps us in the YouTube world. Become a Patreon supporter. Your support allows us to keep doing this. My name is Sean Leahy. I want to thank you for watching.